All right, Shalom Israel, Yahweh Shem Yahshai Barakathan to the brothers, Yahweh Shemar Alathan Shem Yahshai to the sisters. Priest Officer Parak holding down the Sabbath service for the ISUPK out of Arizona. If you're tuning in online, you can see at the very bottom of our screen our class location, which is 12416 North 28th Drive, Phoenix, Arizona. We're in suite number 4, right off the corner of 28th Drive and Cactus. All right. We got classes every Tuesday through Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. And every Saturday we hold our Sabbath service at 11 a.m. All right. So, of course, for our Sabbath service for the past few months, we've been going over starting at the beginning of Genesis. We'll be reading from the beginning of Genesis all the way to the last chapter of the book of Malachi, right? The entire Old Testament, 49 verses at a time. Last week, we went over the building of the Ark of the Covenant in the book of Exodus. I believe that was Exodus 23, 24. Now we're going to be in Exodus, the 28th chapter. All right. And what I try to do anyway, to the best of my ability, is have a topic. And it's a little bit harder to do in a class like this because, for instance, right, last week when Razan went over the Ark of the Covenant, it was pretty much just building dimensions of the Ark of the Covenant. It's hard to really construct a class from that, but you can. Same thing for what we're going to go over this week. This week, we're going to be going over the priestly garments. And we're going to talk about, when we go into Exodus, the 28th chapter, we're going to talk about the construction of those priestly garments and the different aspects to them, right? The girdles, the ephod, all of the different parts of that garment, the mitri. But what we're going to kind of focus on a little bit is because in the book of Exodus, the 28th chapter, we can kind of see the Most High is very particular in the way that he wants the priests to dress and to present themselves. And there's a reason for that. And that's actually what we're going to go into today. So we will read, of course, the dimensions and all of those kind of intricate things of the priestly garments. But however, we're going to go into the meaning behind those things and why the Most High cares about the presentation of the priests. All right. So with that being said, before we get started, of course, this being a Sabbath service, we're going to open up with the prayers. All right. So I imagine, which means to stand. Panyahagwadan, which means to turn and face the east. That way, we're going to go ahead and open up with the prayers, beginning with the Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew. Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Hayah, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwaka, Taba'ah, Ratazaka, Hayah, Aisha, Barataza, Kawa, Hayah, Bashamayim, Nathalanawa, Lakam, Kal Yawam, Wasalak Lanawa, Kal Wath Nawa, Kasalak Nawa, Kal Wath Yanawa, Wala'ah, Tabiyah Nawa, Banasai 1, Abal, Hawashai Nawa, Mayan, Raikaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Wa'ala, Watha Para, Laiwalamyam, Aman. The Lord's Prayer in the English. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Yahweh, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. So be it. We're going to read the prayers for the power of the Hakak in the Hebrew. Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai, Baba Kushai, Nathan Nawa Hakak, Hakak Larapa'ah, Kal Maka'ala, Wakal Madawa, Hakak Latahar, Hamatazariah, Hakak Lakwayam, Hamathium, Hakak, Al Rakawa, Atama'ala, Lagar Shun, by Shem Yahushai, the Wadaman, in the English. Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, please give us the power. The power to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. The power to cleanse the lepers. The power to raise the dead. The power against unclean spirits. To cast them out. In the name of Yahushai. Thank you, so be it. These are the prayers that bless Israel in the Hebrew. Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Barak Lanawa, Waya Shala, Wahabayat Saparyam, Barak, Ba'ashem Yahushai, the Wadaman. In English. Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, bless us and Israel and the school in the name of Yahushai. Thank you, so be it. We're going to read Psalms, the 121st chapter, beginning with the Hebrew. Asha'ah, Ayanya, Ahaharyam, Mayan, Yaba'ah, Isaiah, Ma'aim, Yahweh, Aisha, Shemayam, Wa'arataza, Al Yathan, Lamawat, Regalka, Al Yanawam, Shamarka, Hana, La'a, Yanawam, Wala'a, Yayashan, Shamar, Yashala, Yahweh, Shamarka, Yahweh, Tazalka, Al Yad, Yamyanka, Yawamam, Hashamash, La'a, Yakaka, Wayirah, Balayala, Yahweh, Yashamarka, Makal Ra, Yashamar, Athnapashka, Yahweh, Yashamar, Taza'afka, Wabawa'aka, Ma'aitha, Wa'ai, Awalam. Psalms 121 in the English. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills. From whence cometh my help? My help cometh from Yahweh, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Yasharallah shall neither slumber nor sleep. Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. Yahweh shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in, from this time forth and even forevermore. We're going to read Psalms, the 83rd chapter in the Hebrew. Allahayim, Al-Damaya Laka, Al-Thakarash, Wa Al-Tashakwat, Al Kayahana, Awayabyaka, Yahamaya 1, Ra'ash, Al-Imaka, Ya'arayamwa, Sawada, Wayatha, Ya'itazawa, Al-Tazapawanyaka, Amarwa, Lakawa, Wanakakyadam, Magalia, Wala'a, Yazakar, Sham Yashala, Iwada, Kaya, Nawa'itazawa, Laba, Yakhadwa, Alyaka, Baryath, Yakarathwa, Ahawya, Adawam, Wayashama Aliyam, Mawa'aba, Wahagaryam, Gabal, Wa'ima1, Wa'imalak, Palashah, I'm Yeshabya, Tazawar, Gam Ashawar, Nalawa, Imam, Hayawa, Zarwai, Labanya Lawat, Salah, Aishalaham, Kamadyan, Kasaya, Sara'a, Kayabyan, Banakal, Kwayashwan, Nashamadwa, Ba'ayan, Da'ara, Hayawa, Daman, La'adama, Shayathamwa, Nada, Yabmawa, Ka'ira, Wakaza Abba, Wakaza Bach, Wakatazal, Mana'ai, Kal, Nasaya Kamwa, Ashar, Amarwa, Nayarashah, Lanawa, Ath, Slaki, Na'awath, Alahayam, Alahaya, Shayathamwa, Kagalgala, Kakwash, Lapanya Raka, Ka'ash, Thaba'ira, Ya'ira, Wakalahaba, Thalahat, Haryam, Khan, Tharadapma, Basa'iraka, Wabasa, Wapathka, Thabahalam, Mala'a, Panyaham, Kwalawan, Wayabakwashwa, Shamka, Yahawah, Yabashwa, Wayabahawa, Aya'ai, Wayachaparwa, Wayabadwa, Wayada'aiwa, Kaya'atha, Shamka, Yahawah, Labadka, Al-Yawan, Al-Ka, Ha'aratazah. The book of Psalms, the 83rd chapter in English. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace. And be not still, O God. For lo, Thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Yasharallah may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites, of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Gabal, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre. Assur also is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot. Salah. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, at the brook of Kasan, which perished that endured. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles like Oreb, and like Zeeb. Yea, all their princes as Sabbath, and as Zamunah, who said, Let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. O my God, make them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth the wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name. O Yahweh, let them be confounded in trouble forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish, that men may know that thou, whose name alone is Yahweh, art the most high over all the earth. We're going to read the blessings in the Hebrew. Barakatah Yahweh, Wa Yahweh Shai, Wa Ma'aka Allah, Wa Allah Hayam, Matazab Ya'ah, Allah Wap Yahana, Allah Wapyam, Asaranyam, Akwatazayanyam, Akaya Yayam, Wa Hakwatyan, Yahweh, Wa Shem Yahweh Shai, Wa Rahman. The blessings in English. Bless you, Yahweh, and Yahweh Shai, and Michael, and the angels, commanding General Yohanan, the generals, the captains, the officers, the troopers, and the sisters. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai. Thank you, so be it. Sarge, while you're shopping, we can turn and be seated. All right, once again, we're going to be in Exodus, 28th chapter. We're going to start at the first verse. We'll read 7 verses at a time, so we'll read verses 1 through 7. We'll read those in the Hebrew, and we'll read them in English. We'll break it down. All right. All right, this is the book of Exodus, chapter 28, beginning at verse 1 in the Hebrew. Wa'atha hakurab al yaka ath aharan achayaka wa'atha banyawa athwa mathwaka banya yasha'ala lakahanwa laya aharan nadab wa'aba yahweh wa'aba yahweh al azar wa'aya thamar banya aharan. Verse 2. Wa'ashayath bagadya kodash la'aran la'aharan achyaka lakabawad walatha chapartha. Verse 3. Wa'atha thadabar alkal chakamya laba ashar mala'ath yawa raha chakama wa'aishwa ath bagadya aharan lakwadashwa lakahan laya. Verse 4. Wa'ala Habagadyam Ashar Ya'ishua Khashawa Wa'apawa Wa'ma'aya Wakathanath Thashabai Mataza Wapath Wa'abanat Wa'aishua Bagadya Kodash La'aran Akyaka Walabanyawa Lakahanwa Laya. Verse 5. Waham Yakwakwa Ath Hazahab, Wa'ath ha-Thakalath, Wa'ath ha-Dagaman, Wa'ath Thawalaitha, Hashanya, Wa'ath Hashashah, verse 6, Wa'aisha Wa'ath Ha'apad, Zahab Thakalath, Wa'aragaman, Thawalitha, Shanya, Washashah, Mashazar, Ma'aisha, Hashab, verse 7, Shathia, Kathapath, Chabarath, Yahaya, Lawa, Al, Shanya, Quatazawathia, Wa, Wachabar. That was verses 1 through 7 in the Hebrew. We're going to read those same 7 verses in the English now. Matter of fact, so I can put this to the side. And that's just as a side note, that's kind of what we're going to be seeing a lot. What we're about to read, we're going to be seeing a lot of that in the book of Exodus and really a lot in the Torah. The Torah is a law book. All right, so the first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis through Deuteronomy, it's a law book. It's what you could consider like a constitution or like kind of like a constitution, right? That's kind of what we would call it, right? Where we have our laws, we have our bylaws, and then we even have down to what we're about to read, the specific types of garments that the Most High desires for the priest to wear. Shooting a little bit. I mean, last week or the week before, we read about the construction of the Ark of the Covenant, right? All of the the intricacies of how the Lord wants these things built. We're going to find later on in the book of Exodus and in the book of Leviticus. I think it's in the book of Numbers. One of the 5 books. We're going to find the construction of the tabernacles. I think it's in the book of Exodus, though, where you're going to have very specific measurements. So a lot of this stuff isn't really as entertaining as like if you read the book of Jeremiah, you see Jeremiah is about to get his head cut off and he's prophesying, yelling, right? It's not as interesting and entertaining as that. However, these things are extremely important for us to read because this is our constitution and the Lord obviously desires for us to have this knowledge. So we want to treat it all the same. And of course, as we go over these precepts and understand what the Lord desires for the priest to wear, which is what we're going to go over today, we'll also get a deeper understanding of why that is. So let's go ahead and read that. You can start at Exodus 28 and 1.
Oh God, book of Exodus, chapter 28, verse 1. And take thou unto thee Aaron, thy brother, and his sons with him, from among the children of Israel, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office, even Aaron, the Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, Aaron's sons.
So just to clarify, right? So that's who the priest, when you go into initially how the priesthood was set up under Moses, you have that's called the Levitical priesthood, and that Levitical priesthood is established that the Levites, specifically the sons of Aaron, would be the priests. And we'll go over and touch on what a priest is and what their role is. But to make a long story short, their job is to make intercession between the children of Israel and the Most High. And that role is specifically assigned to Aaron and his sons. And that's what we're reading about right now, right? Go ahead.
Okay. Verse 2. And thou shalt make holy garments for Aaron, thy brother, for glory and for beauty.
So now, that term holy, we always discuss this, right? That term holy just means separate, kodash. It means separate or set apart. The priests are going to wear garments that are different than the rest of the Israelites. The rest of the Israelites are going to wear, of course, beautiful, glorious apparel, but there's a specific way that the Lord wants the priests to dress. And what we see the description of that is for glory and for beauty. The priests are going to be easily distinguishable from the rest of the Israelites because they are going to have glorious and beautiful garments, right? And there's a reason for this. Let's keep reading. Verse 3.
Okay. Verse 3. And thou shalt speak unto all that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's garments to consecrate him,
Mm-hmm.
that he may minister unto me in the priest's office.
So now hold that, but give me the book of Ecclesiasticus and the Apocrypha.
Okay.
So we see that the Lord is putting a real emphasis on this, right? And he say that he want the people to make his garments that are full of wisdom and wise-hearted, and they have the spirit of wisdom. So that way they can make Aaron's garments to consecrate him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. Y'all know, according to the Torah, the priest can't even minister unless he has those glorious garments on. So you can't just, wake up, throw your fruit of the loom t-shirt on and a pair of shorts and walk into the tabernacle and make intercession for the children of Israel. You can't, right? Because the Lord, there's a real specific thing that the Lord is doing here. Let's read that. Let's get Ecclesiasticus, the 45th chapter. Ecclesiasticus, the 45th chapter. There's a reason for this. The Lord is very specific. Like, once again, the Lord doesn't do anything in vain. So there's got to be a reason why he's putting so much emphasis on this. Let's read Ecclesiasticus 45, and let's start at verse 6. We got a little bit of reading to do here.
Okay. Book of Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 45, verse 6. He exalted Aaron and holy men like unto him, even his brother of the tribe of Levi.
Mm-hmm.
An everlasting covenant he made with him, and gave him the priesthood among the people. He beautified him with comely ornaments, and clothed him with a robe of glory.
Go ahead.
Verse 8. He put upon him perfect glory, and strengthened him with rich garments, with breeches, with a long robe, and the ephod.
See, now there's once again, there's a reason for this. The priests are supposed to symbolize intercession between the Most High and the children of Israel. So what must the priests be? They must be blameless. They must be perfect. They have to be holy and set apart. The children of Israel are going to make mistakes. We're going to read about that in just a minute. The children of Israel are going to make mistakes. They're going to sin against the Most High. Sometimes they'll sin by way of ignorance. Maybe they just don't know no better. The priests aren't allowed to make those types of mistakes. Why? Because the priests have to be the one to make that intercession between the children of Israel that make those types of mistakes and the Most High God. Which is why these garments and this glorious apparel that the Most High has put them in is so important, because it symbolizes the glory that the Most High expects them to live up to that standard. Let's keep reading.
Verse 9. And he compassed him with pomegranates and with many golden bells round about, that as he went there might be a sound, and a noise made that might be heard in the temple, for a memorial to the children of his people.
Mm-hmm.
With an holy garment with gold and blue silk and purple, the work of the embroidery, with a breastplate of judgment, and with the urim and thummim, with twisted scarlet, the work of the cunning workman, with precious stones graven like seals, and set in gold, the work of the jeweler, with a writing engraved for a memorial, after the number of the tribes of Israel. Verse 12. He set a crown of gold upon the mitre, wherein was engraved holiness, an ornament of honor, a costly work of the desires of the eyes, goodly and beautiful.
Now, when people say, well, why do y'all brothers in the ISUPK dress so ridiculously? Like this garment that I got on is really simple. It's got some gold lining, some gold studs. That's about it. Got some shields on. That's it. And people will still look at somebody like me and say, why are you dressed so ridiculously? But we just read the description of the way that the priest dressed. And that's absolutely ridiculous if this is ridiculous. Because we see not only does it have the silver and the gold, but you got jewels all throughout the garment. This mitre, this is just a black mitre. This is regular. People look at me like I'm crazy when I got this thing on. But not only did they wear the mitre, but they had a crown of gold on the mitre. Like a good example of that, for those of y'all that be on Facebook and see the brother Godai one out there in Austin, Texas, well, the way that brother comes to Passover is the way that these priests was looking. You understand? And when you and I'm singling him out on purpose because his garments, and of course there's a few other brothers that have them extremely extravagant garments. Those garments are a perfect example of this, right? Jewels all throughout the garment, silver, gold, just extra. That's the way that the Most High desires for the priests to dress. Why? Because it's a symbolization of the fact that the Most High has set those priests up to be the gold standard for the children of Israel. And not only that, but remember, Jesus Christ is the high priest. And in order for him to even make the intercession that he made, and you know how, of course, the scriptures say that he died for our sins. In order for that to even be possible, he had to be a lamb without what? Without blemish. In order to make intercession, you have to be blameless. You have to be without blemish. When you go into of course, we'll read that in the book of Leviticus. A lot of the sacrificial law that we find in the Bible, you could not take a dirty, nasty animal and sacrifice it for your sin. It had to be what? Without blemish. And that's, of course, just the symbolism that the Most High has applied to the priests. And we see that. We see how glorious the Most High desires for his priests to dress because of that, right? Let's keep reading.
Verse 13. Before him there were none such, neither did ever any stranger put them on, but only his children and his children's children perpetually.
And these glorious garments that you see the priests wear, nobody else was allowed to wear those garments. Well, if we continue reading in the Torah, you find that nobody could touch those priest garments except for the priests, because they were wholly set apart specifically for the priests, right? Go ahead. And that's, matter of fact, so like, while we on that same subject, remember when we went over the Ark of the Covenant, nobody could touch the Ark of the Covenant because the Ark of the Covenant was holy. And so that's the way that the Most High looks at these things, right? Let's keep reading.
Verse 14. Their sacrifices shall be wholly consumed every day, twice continually.
Let's go back. You holding Exodus 28?
Gotcha.
Let's go back to Exodus 28. We'll read a little bit further, then we'll pull a few more precepts.
Book of Exodus, chapter 28, verse 4. Now, verse 4. And these are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate and an ephod.
Now, we read all of this in the book of Ecclesiasticus, right? We're going to go right back down. This is where it was initially handed down and prescribed for the children of Israel to make these garments for the priests, right? So this is where you initially find these things. Go ahead.
Okay. They shall make a breastplate and an ephod and a robe and a broidered coat, a mitre and a girdle. They shall make holy garments for Aaron thy brother and his sons, that he may minister unto me the priest's office. They shall take gold and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen. They shall make an ephod of gold, of blue, and of purple, of scarlet, and fine twined linen with cunning work. It shall have 2 shoulder pieces thereof joined at the 2 edges thereof, and so it shall be joined together.
So now we're getting into the specifics, right? Once again, these things ain't for entertainment. This is just what the Lord desires us to understand. So we're going to have to keep reading, right? Let's go ahead.
Verse 8. And the curious girdle of the ephod, which is upon it, shall be the same according to the work thereof, even of gold, of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen. Thou shalt take 2 onyx stones, engrave on them the names of the children of Israel, 6 of their names on one stone, and the other 6 names of the rest on the other stone, according to their birth. It with the work of the engraver in the stone, like the engraving of a signet. Thou shalt engrave 2 stones with the names of the children of Israel. Thou shalt make them to be set in ounces of gold.
Mm-hmm.
And thou shalt put 2 to put the two stones upon the shoulders of the ephod for stones of memorial unto the children of Israel. And Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord upon his two shoulders for a memorial. And two shall make ounces of gold, and two chains of pure gold at the edges of wreathen work shalt thou make them, and fasten the wreathen chains to the ouches. And thou shalt make the breastplate of judgment with cunning work. After the work of the ephod thou shalt make it of gold, of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, and of fine twined linen thou shalt make it. Four square it shall be, four square it shall be double, being double. A span shall it be the length thereof, and a span shall the breadth of, and a span shall be the breadth of thereof. And thou shalt set it in the settings of stones, even 4 rows of stones. The first row shall be a sardis, a topaz, a carbuncle. This shall be the first row. The second row shall be an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. In the third row, a ligure, an agate, and an amethyst. In the fourth row, a beryl, and an onyx, and a jasper. And they shall be set in gold in their enclosings. The stones shall be with the names of the children of Israel, 12 according to their names, like the engravings of a signet. Every one with his name shall they be according to the 12 tribes.
So a lot of y'all might have seen those breastplates, right, where you have the 4 rows of those stones that represent the children of Israel, right? That's where they get this from. A lot of times in modern day, the Jewish man, they got a lot of different crazy things that they wear, but sometimes they'll put on one of these where you see the 4 different rows of 3 for all of the different tribes of Israel. They have their own specific stone. And there's a lot of now that's, of course, we can teach a whole class on that. There's a reason why the Lord assigned those different stones to each specific tribe, and we find that in the book of Revelation. But the point here that we want to understand is that the Most High was very specific and peculiar as to how he wanted these things set up on the priest's garments, right? We got a little bit more reading to do here, and then we'll get a couple precepts. Go ahead.
Okay. Verse 21. And the stones shall be with the names of the children of Israel, 12 according to their names, like the engravings of a signet. Every one with his name shall they be according to the 12 tribes. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate chains at the ends of wreathen work of pure gold. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate 2 rings of gold, and shall put the 2 rings at the 2 ends of the breastplate. And thou shalt put the 2 wreathen chains of gold in the 2 rings, which are on the ends of the breastplate. And the other 2 ends of the 2 wreathen chains shalt thou fasten in the 2 ouches, and put them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod before it. And thou shalt make 2 rings of gold, and thou shalt put them upon the 2 ends of the breastplate in the border thereof, which is in the side of the ephod inward. And 2 other rings of gold shalt thou make, and shalt put them on the 2 sides of the ephod underneath, toward the foreplate thereof, over against the other coupling thereof, above the curious girdle of the ephod. And they shall bind the breastplate by the rings thereof unto the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue, that it may be above the curious girdle of the ephod, and that the breastplate be not loosed from the ephod. And Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel in the breastplate of judgment upon his heart, when he goeth in unto the holy place for a memorial before the Lord continually. And thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and the Thummim. They shall be Aaron's heart when he goeth in before the Lord. And Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart before the Lord continually.
All right, so now let's get this real quick. You can hold that, but give me Numbers the 15th chapter.
Okay.
All right, Numbers the 15th chapter. Aaron is going to bear the judgment. That's another one of the roles, right, that we see that the priests have been given that role of judgment. We're going to read that. Give me Numbers the 15th chapter and the 24th verse.
I'll come to the book of Numbers, chapter 15, verse 24. Then it shall be, if aught to be committed by ignorance, without the knowledge of the congregation, that all the congregation shall offer one young bullock for a burnt offering, for a sweet savior unto the Lord, with his meat offering and his drink offering, according to the manner, and one kid of the goats for a sin offering.
Mm-hmm. So now this is talking about a sin that be committed by ignorance. This is what a lot of us did coming up. Without the knowledge of the law, you can't break the law if you don't know what it is. Now, what I mean by that is, of course, like in America, right? You're expected to know that you have to have your seatbelt on in the car, right? You're expected to know that you must stay underneath the speed limit. You're expected to know these things. So like in America, it's a little bit different. In America, whether you know or not that you were supposed to do this, you're still going to get prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But according to the Bible, when you go into the laws in the Bible, there are certain sins that you can commit through ignorance. And if you don't know any better, it honestly and earnestly don't know any better, then this is something that you don't have to die for, right? Because when you go into the judicial system of the Bible, you find that many of these sins that these people were committing, you had to be put to death for. You commit adultery, you have sex with another man's wife, you have to get put to death, and she gets put to death, right? A lot of these things you had to get put to death for, but there are certain things that that could be mediated through the priest, and there could be a sacrifice made, which is what we're reading about. All right, let's read verse 25.
Okay. Verse 25. And the priest shall make an atonement for all the congregation of the children of Israel, and it shall be forgiven them, for it is ignorance.
So now this concept of forgiveness, a lot of people think that the Old Testament is full of like a lot of times like Christians will say, well, that Old Testament God is so mean, right? But in the New Testament, he's all love and hugs. But when we go into the Bible, we find that the Most High God has always been merciful. All right. He's always been a forgiving God. A lot of times that it's just not taught. It's not taught properly. So a lot of times people feel like they have to go to the so-called New Testament to understand forgiveness and to understand mercy, when the Lord has always extended his mercy. And we find that here, right? The Lord will forgive you for your sins before Christ, right? But now we understand, that helps us to understand Christ's role just a little bit more, because now we understand that Christ being a high priest, his sacrifice, that's the reason for us being forgiven for our sins, because he had to be that high priest. Let's keep reading.
Okay. And they shall bring their offering, a sacrifice made by fire unto the Lord, and their sin offering before the Lord, for their ignorance. Verse 26. And it shall be forgiven all the congregation of the children of Israel, and the stranger that sojourneth among them, seeing all the people were in ignorance.
Seeing that they were in ignorance, right? But now what does this come with? You have to be able to make that judgment. You have to be able to make the judgment that this thing was done in ignorance. See, there's a story. I can't wait till we get to it, right? But I'll give you guys a brief overview because we was talking about this with the Ark of the Covenant, right? With the Ark of the Covenant, even the people that transport the Ark of the Covenant, there's a specific group of brothers that have to transport the Ark of the Covenant from one place to another. Whenever it's being transported, it's the same group of brothers, right? There was a specific brother, after one of David's battles, they was transporting his ark. And remember, we talked about how earlier you're not allowed to touch the ark. You have to hold it by these sticks, right? You can't touch the ark itself. There was a brother that was helping transport the Ark of the Covenant. And one of the oxen that were carrying that Ark of the Covenant tripped on like a stone or something like that. And he could tell that that ark was getting ready to tumble over. So what he did was he put his hand out, reached his hand out to stabilize it. The Lord struck him dead. And so that begs the question, like, well, damn, was the brother just supposed to just let it fall? And the answer would be, yeah, the brother was definitely supposed to let it fall. Why would that be? Even though the Ark of the Covenant is such a holy thing, you would expect, like, the Lord would respect that you would hold it up and make sure that it doesn't fall. But what the Lord truly respects is you being obedient to his order, which is why we always say your intentions mean nothing. Because the brother was intending to save the ark. He had good intentions, right?
Right.
But in his good intentions, he disobeyed a direct order from the Lord, which said, don't touch the ark by any means. So was that through ignorance? That couldn't have been a sin through ignorance, right? Why? Because he knew better. He just thought that he could do what he wanted to do because he felt like this was an exception. When the Lord doesn't make exceptions to the rule, the rules are the rules. And so the reason why I'm bringing that up, like I said, I can't wait till we get to that story because I got a whole class that we are going to be teaching on that story. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is because those types of things require judgment. There are judges that are set in Israel, according to the Bible. And even then, sometimes those judges have a matter that's too hard for them to be able to judge. That's why we see when Moses, when Moses assigns the judges, we see that he tells them, if there's any matter that's too hard for you to judge, bring it to me and I'll consult with the Lord. Because judgment is an extremely difficult burden to bear. Because you have to be able to make the right call, which is why the office of a priest is extremely, it's a very high responsibility that not everybody should so desire. You got cats out here calling themselves chief high priests, trying to assume that responsibility and that role of being a priest, not realizing what it truly entails. You think it's just the glorious apparel. I mean, we just read about that glorious apparel. We read about that, you are considered to be an upper echelon, right? Because you're considered to be the standard for Israel. But, we've heard it said by many people, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Because now all of that burden falls upon your shoulders. It's not as glorious as so many people think. So I just wanted to read that just so we could understand it. Let's keep reading. I think we got a little bit more to go on that. What'd you leave off at?
Okay. I just ended verse 26.
Let's read 27.
Verse 27. And if any soul sin through ignorance, then he shall bring a she-goat of the first year for a sin offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for the soul that sinneth ignorantly.
So now the priest is the one that makes this atonement for that soul that sinneth ignorantly. There is no sacrifice without these priests making the atonement, right? Keep reading.
When he sinneth by ignorance before the Lord, to make an atonement for him, and it shall be forgiven him.
Give me Deuteronomy, the 18th chapter.
Okay.
So that's why we have to understand that role of a priest is extremely important. And it is a glorious role. However, we also have to understand that it comes bearing a heavy burden. The book of Ecclesiasticus, the 7th chapter, tells us that you should fear the Lord with all your soul and reverence his priests, right? And that seems like, well, damn, I want that glory. Like I said, we got cats out here calling themselves chief priests, chief high priest Alazar, right? And we find out that not everybody's meant to assume this role.
Right.
Not everybody's meant to assume this position, because cats like that are assuming a different type of position, if y'all know what I'm talking about. Because we see that not everybody is fit and cut out to be under that type, to have that type of authority and to be under that type of microscope. Because that's what being a priest, we find, and we'll read it. Like, that's the beautiful thing about the way that these Sabbath services are going to go. We are forced to read all throughout the whole Old Testament. We'll read everything. And we're going to see so many examples of these priests that was being held to that high regard and being held to that high regard, but also being under that microscope, and their every move being watched and then being punished for everything. You don't get away with nothing being a priest. Let's read that. Deuteronomy 18. Let's start at verse 1.
Come on. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 1. The priests, the Levites, and all the tribes of Levi shall have no part nor inheritance with Israel.
So now this is the other part of that. The priests, they wear these glorious garments. They make intercession for the children of Israel, right? They make the judgments. They're given a whole lot of authority, but there's a caveat to that. The Levites don't get an inheritance in the land of Israel, right? Let's read that. Keep reading.
Come. They shall eat the offerings of the Lord made by fire, and his inheritance.
And it's another thing we have to understand. They don't have a job like you and I have a job. A priest is to do the work of the Lord perpetually. That's it. He doesn't, that's why America is such a terrible place for the Lord's chosen people, because a priest in America cannot be just a priest. A priest has to be a priest and a carpenter and a server and a pipe fitter and an electrician and all of these different things. A priest can't just be a priest. What we're reading here is that a priest's sole duty is to do the work of the Lord, so much so that the only food that priest eats is food from the burnt offerings, and the only money that they get is from the tithes that we see in the Bible. And on top of that, when you go into the Bible, we find that the children of Israel, when we come into the land of Israel, that land is divided up amongst the tribes of the children of Israel. But there is no plot of land for the Levites, because the Levites have to be spread throughout all of the 12 tribes. Why? Because they have to be in every plot of land to be able to make that intercession and to be those judges in those lands, right? Let's keep reading.
Come. Verse 2. Therefore, they shall have no inheritance among their brethren. The Lord is their inheritance, as he has said unto them.
So it seems like they're getting the short end of the stick because they don't get any inheritance of the land, right? However, they not, because the inheritance that they get is the inheritance of the Lord, right? Let's keep reading.
Okay, verse 3. And this shall be the priest's due from the people, from them that offer a sacrifice.
I got it. From them that, go ahead. Salaki. From them that offer a sacrifice, whether it be ox or sheep, and they shall give unto the priest the shoulder and the two cheeks and the maw. What this is talking about is the fact that when you go and sacrifice these animals for your sin, for your atonement, for a free will offering, for whatever that case may be, you have to now, part of that offering goes to the priest. Why? Because they don't have a full-time, they don't have a job outside of being a priest. Their job is being a priest. So they don't make any money going out doing what you and I do, right? As we continue on, it says, the first fruit also of thy corn, of thy wine, of thine oil, and the first of the fleece of thy sheep shalt thou give to him. So we find that that's part talking about the tithe. When you go into the Bible, we find that the tithes and offerings that you see in the scriptures is the payment for the priest. Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. So lock it. Hey, what's going on, sir? All right. Hey, Og, if you don't mind, can you pull for me Deuteronomy the 14th chapter?
Okay.
Give me Deuteronomy 14 and let's see. Yeah, pull Deuteronomy 14. Just hold that for me. And we're gonna come right back. Give me no, you're gonna pull Matthew. So hold Deuteronomy 14 and let me get Matthew. Matthew the 9th chapter.
Okay.
Matthew 9 and 20.
Matthew 9 and 12.
20.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 9, verse 20. And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment.
Read up a little bit. Let's get the context on this story real quick. Read up to, I think I want to start at verse 17.
Verse 17. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish. But they put new wine in new bottles, and both are preserved.
So this is talking about this is Christ, right? He's cutting the Sadducee and the Pharisee, right? Just to give you a little bit of context, the Sadducee and the Pharisee would always come to Christ questioning him, questioning why he does things a certain way, and out of the tradition of the Sadducee and Pharisee. We see that the Sadducee and Pharisee would consistently push tradition versus Salaki. Hey, can you check that door for me real quick? Just check that door. We would see that the Sadducee and Pharisee would push tradition over the laws and statutes of the Most High. So much so that they would accept, we were just talking about tithes, right? They would accept tithes of mint and of anise and all of these things, right? They would take that, but what they wouldn't do was enforce the law when it came to committing adultery. They wouldn't enforce the law when it came to honoring your mother and your father. Because just like we see today with a lot of these mega church pastors, where they focus so much on what they can gain and not the service of the Lord, it's the same thing that the Sadducees and Pharisees at this time was. So that's the context, but let's keep reading. Let's read verse 18.
Look at Matthew chapter 9, verse 18. While he spake these things unto them, behold, there came a certain ruler and worshipped him, saying, My daughter is even now dead, but come and lay thy hand upon her, and she shall live. And Jesus arose and followed him, and so did his disciples.
And something that a lot of people did understand about Christ was that he had spiritual power. A lot of people knew that Jesus Christ was the high priest before Christ told anybody that he was a high priest. We find that Christ never said those words out of his mouth. We see Paul calling him the high priest. When you go into the book of Hebrews, we see Paul calling Jesus Christ that high priest. But remember, what we're talking about is that glory that the priest had, right? Let's continue on. Let's read verse 20.
Verse 20. And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment.
Mm-hmm.
For she said within herself, if I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole.
And this was something that even this woman saw. She saw that even if she could just touch the hem of his garment, that she could be whole. She could, because remember, she was unclean. When we go into the book of Leviticus, we find that being unclean meant that you had to be separated from the congregation, right? And the type of uncleanness that she had lasted for such a long time that she felt separated from the Most High God. The only way that she felt like she could be cured of this uncleanness was by touching Christ's garment. Now, this isn't spooky. What we read earlier in the book of Exodus, the 28th chapter, the Lord gives a damn about these garments that these priests wear. So much so that we read what 30 verses straight just on the construction of how the Lord wants these garments to be put together. Let's keep reading.
Come. Verse 22. But Jesus turned him about, and when he saw her, he said, "Daughter, be of good comfort."
But see, she thought it was going to be just from touching his garment, right? Keep reading.
Come. Thy faith have made thee whole.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman was made whole from that hour.
And that's why I say this isn't something that's spooky. This isn't something magical. It's not magic. You can't touch the garment of the priest and be healed. What this is talking about is the fact that, remember, earlier we talked about the symbolism behind what those garments represented. Those garments represented holiness. They represented intercession between the children of Israel and the Most High. And when she went to touch that garment thinking that she was going to be healed, Christ turned around and said, "Be of good comfort because your faith has made you whole." She understood, like most other people did not, that Jesus Christ was that high priest that was going to make intercession between her and the Most High. Let's read another instance of that in Matthew, the 14th chapter. Let's read Matthew 14 and let's read verse 35.
Book of Matthew, chapter 14, verse 35. And when the men of that place had knowledge of him, they sent out into all the country round about, and brought unto him all that were diseased, and besought him that they might only touch the hem of his garment. And as many as touched were made perfectly whole.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's...
Oh, Salaki, read that from the top. 36. Read it one more time.
Okay, verse 36. And besought him that they might only touch the hem of his garment. And as many as touched were made perfectly whole.
So now we see, let's go back to Exodus, the 28th chapter, right? We see that these garments are important, but not because of the garments themselves, but it's because of what they represent, right? These garments represent glory of the Most High. Was you holding something for me? I think in the book of Deuteronomy.
Yeah, the 14th chapter.
Let me see. I think I want you to drop that. Give me Exodus, the 40th chapter.
Okay.
Give me Exodus 40, and let's start at verse 13.
The book of Exodus, chapter 40, verse 13. And thou shalt put upon Aaron the holy garments, and anoint him, and sanctify him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt bring his sons, and clothe them with coats.
Now remember, we read this earlier. We talked about it some, that the priests, in order for them to even do their service, they had to have these garments on. And they had to be to the specifications that we're reading about in Exodus, the 28th chapter. You couldn't minister to the Most High without having those garments. Let's keep reading.
Verse 15. And thou shalt anoint them, as thou didst anoint their father, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. For their anointing shall surely be an everlasting priesthood throughout their generations.
All right, now take me back to Exodus, the 28th chapter.
Okay.
And if you could continue where you had left off at. You remember where you left off at?
I'm at 31.
All right. You can go ahead.
Exodus chapter 28, verse 31. And thou shalt make the robe of the ephod all of blue, and there shall be an hole on the top of it, in the midst thereof. It shall have a binding of woven work round about the whole of it, as it were the whole of a hebergin. Hebergin. That's how you pronounce that.
Hebergin.
Yeah, hebergin. That it be not rent. Verse 33. And beneath upon the hem of it thou shalt make the pomegranates of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, round about the hem thereof, and the bells of gold between them round about. A golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate, upon the hem of the robe round about. And it shall be upon Aaron to minister, and his sound shall be heard when he goeth in unto the holy place before the Lord, and when he cometh out, that he die not.
Mm-hmm.
And thou shalt make a plate of pure gold, engrave upon it like the engravings of a signet, holiness to the Lord. And thou shalt put it on a blue lace, that it may be upon the mitre, upon the forefront of the mitre, it shall be. And it shall be upon Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may bear the iniquity of the holy things, which the children of Israel shall hallow in all their holy gifts.
All right. Hey, if you don't mind, can you go get the door? I'll be out to the door. I'll keep reading. We just got to finish out this chapter and we'll be able to close out. I'm going to start reading from, let me see where I'm going to come at. I'm going to start reading at 40. And for Aaron's sons, thou shalt make coats, and thou shalt make for them girdles, and bonnets shalt thou make for them, for glory and for beauty. And thou shalt put them upon Aaron thy brother, and his sons with him, and shall anoint them, and consecrate them, and sanctify them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt make them linen breeches to cover their nakedness. From the loins even unto the thighs they shall reach. Verse 43. And they shall be upon Aaron and upon his sons when they come into the tabernacle of the congregation, or when they come near unto the altar to minister in the holy place, that they shall bear not iniquity and die. It shall be a statute forever unto him and unto his seed after him. So we find that this was an order in the form of a law. So we find that if they were not to wear these garments, that they would be in iniquity, and the Lord would put them to death. I'm gonna one more thing before we get out of here. I'm gonna pull this precept real quick. Actually, let me pull one more precept. All right, I'm gonna save it for next week. Because next week we're gonna go over some more of the sacrificial law and the priesthood and the office of the priest. So I'll close out with that. Yeah, I'm gonna close out with that. All right, with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and close out. So we'll close out with the prayers. So I imagine, which means to stand. Panyagudan, which means to turn and face the east. We're going to begin with the Lord's Prayer, beginning with the Hebrew. Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Hayah, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwatka, Taba'ah, Ratazaka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Kawa, Hayah, Bashamayim, Natalanawa, Lacham, Kal Yawam, Wasalak Lanawa, Kawat Yanawa, Kasalak Nawa, Kawat Yanawa, Wala'ah, Tabaya Nawa, Banasai 1, Abal, Hawashai Nawa, Mayan, Raikaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Wa Allah, Wa Tha Para, Lai Walamyum Aman, in the English. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Yahweh, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. So be it. I'm going to read the prayers for the power, or the hakak, in the Hebrew. Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Baba Kushah, Nathan Nawa Hakak, Hakak Larapa'ah, Kal Maka'ala, Wakal Madawa, Hakak Latahar, Hamatazarayim, Hakak Lakwayam, Hamathyum, Hakak Arakawa, Hatama Allah, Lagar Shun, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, the Wadaman. In the English, the prayers for the power. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, please give us the power to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease, the power to cleanse the lepers, the power to raise the dead, the power against unclean spirits, to cast them out. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Prayers to bless Israel in the Hebrew. Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Barak Lanawa, Wayasha Allah, Wahabayat Saparyam, Barak, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, the Wadaman. In English. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, bless us and Israel and the school. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. I'm going to read Psalms, the 121st chapter in Hebrew. Asha'ah, Ayanya, Al-Haharyam, Ma'ayan, Yaba'a, Izarya, Ma'ayim Yahweh, Aisha, Shamayam, Wa'aratazah, Al-Yathan, Lamawat, Ragalka, Al-Yanawam, Shamarka, Hana, La'a, Yanawam, Wala'a, Yayashan, Shawamar, Yasha'ala, Yahweh, Shamarka, Yahweh, Tazalka, Al-Yad, Yamyanka, Yawamam, Hashamash, La'a, Yakaka, Wayarach, Balayala, Yahweh, Yashamarka, Makal Rai, Yashamar, Athnapashka, Yahweh, Yashamar, Taza'afka, Wabawa'aka, Ma'aitha, Wa'aid, Iwalam. Psalms 121 in English. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from Yahweh, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Yasha'Allah shall neither slumber nor sleep. Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. Yahweh shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in, from this time forth and even forevermore. Psalms, the 83rd chapter in the Hebrew. Alahayim, al damaya laka, al thacharash, wa al thashakwat al, kayahana, awayabyaka, yahamaya one ra'ash, al imaka, ya arayamwa sawada, wa yatha, ya aitazawa, al tazapawanyaka. Amarwa, Lakawa, Wanakaki Adam, Magauya, Wala Yazakar, Sham Yasha Allah Iwada, Kaya, Nawa Aitazawa, Laba, Yahadwa, Alyaka, Baryath, Yakarathwa, Ahalya, Adawam, Wayashama Aliyam, Mawa Abba, Wahagaryam, Gabal, Waima One, Waima Lak, Palashath, I'm Yeshabya Tazawar, Gam Ashawar, Nalawa, Imam, Hayawa, Zarwai, Labanya Lawat, Salah, Aishalaham, Kamadyan, Kasaya Sara'a, Kayabyan, Banachal, Kwayashwan, Nashamadwa, Ba'ayan Da'ara, Hayawa, Daman, La Adama, Shayathamwa, Nada, Yabmawa, Ka'irab, Wakaza Abba, Wakaza Bach, Wakatazar Mana'ai, Kal, Nasaya Kamwa, Ashar, Amarwa, Nayarasha, Lanawa, Ath, Na'awat, Alahayam, Alahaya, Shayathamwa, Kagalgala, Kakwash, Lapanya Raka, Ka'ash, Daba Ira Ya'ira, Wakala Haba, Thalahat, Haryam, Khan, Tharadapma, Basa Iraka, Wabasa Wapathka Thabalam, Mala'a, Panyaham, Kalawan, Wayabakwashwa, Shamka Yahawa, Yabashwa, Wayabahawa, Ayai, Wayakaparwa, Wayabadwa, Wayadaiwa, Kayata, Shamka Yahawa, Labadka Ayawan, Al-Kal Ha'arataza. It's the book of Psalms, the 83rd chapter in English. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Yasha'Allah may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Gabal, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre. Assur also is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot, Salah. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, at the brook of Kasan, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles like Oreb, and like Zeeb, yea, all their princes as Zabah, and as Zamunah, who said, Let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. O my God, make them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth the wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Yahweh. Let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish. Then men may know that thou, whose name alone is Yahweh, art the most high over all the earth. I'm going to read the blessings in the Hebrew. Barakatha Yahweh wa Yahweh Shai, wa Ma'aka Allah wa Allahayim, Matazab Ya'a Alawap Yahana, Ha'alawapyam, Hasaranyam, Hakwatazayanyam, Hakayayayam, wa Hagwathim. Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, the Wada Aman. In the English, bless you, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, and Michael and the angels, commanding General Yahana, the generals, the captains, the officers, the troopers, and the sisters. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Sorry while you're shopping, you can turn and be seated. That's going to conclude the Sabbath service. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Barakatham, Yahweh Shemar Alatham Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai.